Good morning, students. So far, we have discussed about cell. Cell is a structural functional unit of life. In the last lecture, we have discussed about the how cell was discovered. Okay, cell, structural and functional unit of life. We are discussing chapter number 8. Class 8. Okay. Chapter number 8. Cell structure function of life. In the last lecture we discussed that how buildings or walls are made above the unit of bricks. Same way, the multicellular organisms, whether plants or animals, are made up of cells. So many cells together assembles and whole organism is formed. As I told you, cells form tissues, tissues form organs, organs form systems, and whole system coordinate and then it forms an organism. Also, we will talk about the unicellular organism and multicellular organisms. So, what is unicellular organism? Single cell animal or single cell organism like amoeba, paramecium. Even multicellular organisms like us, animals or plants, we are multicellular. But at one time we were also one single cell. We were also one. For example, there is an egg cell. Then there is a sperm cell in case of animals. What happens when egg cell or sperm cell, they are known as zygote, they are known as, we can say, gametes. When they fused, when sperm cells fuse with the egg cell, it forms zygote, or we can call it as a fertilized egg cell. Fertilized egg cell. It was a single cell. So we were once a zygote. Zygote is a single cell. So when sperm cell fuse with the egg cell, it forms zygote, and these single cells divide and forms many cells, and then ultimately it forms a organism, multicellular organism. It can be either of any animals or human beings. So even multicellular organisms were a single cell. Now they are millions and trillions of cells. Now let us understand what is unicellular organism. This they are unicellular organisms. Even they are unicellular organisms, but like for example amoeba. Amoeba shape is like irregular. It does not have any shape. Even it is single cell, but this single cell perform every functions like multicellular organisms. Like we have like digestion, excretion, movement, locomotion. Okay, then what else? Like metabolic activity, other metabolic activity. Then reproduction. Okay, all this is happening in this single cell. And for multicellular organisms like us, human beings, or plants or animals, we have specific tissues and organs. For example, our heart is generally for circulatory system, for pumping the blood. Our kidney is for purification of blood. There is a nervous system in body. So what happens in case of multicellular organisms? Many cells together form tissues, and the tissues perform a particular function. And tissue in turn form organs. Okay, and these organs is like kidney, heart, liver. These are organs. How they are formed? They are formed by many tissues, and tissues are formed by cells. So in multicellular organisms, the work is divided. The work is divided. Like for example, heart is doing one other work, kidney is doing another work, liver is doing another work. So there are different organs doing their different functions. But in case of unicellular organisms, these single cells have doing every, we can say, like living like an organism. It is doing everything like an organism. Movement, locomotions, eating. And you know how amoeba locomote? For example, there is a food of prey is here. Prey amoeba engulf the food in this way. It surrounds the prey and finally it digests it, it take it. So it is called engulfing, phagocytosis. That is called phagocytosis. There is a word which will learn in 10th standard, that such kind of movement engulfing the prey, irregular shape and engulfing is known as phagocytosis. In case of human being, our white blood cells also are like irregular shape and they also do phagocytosis, that is engulfing and eating. Okay. Now let's talk about shape of the cells. Shape of the cells is different. First let's talk about amoeba. Shape of cells. First we are going to talk about amoeba. Amoeba is having irregular shape. Irregular. No shape. And how does it move? The locomotive organ. The locomotive organ. What is locomotion? Like our locomotive organs is leg. Okay, by leg, like hind limbs, or even for example, these are known as forelimbs and hind limbs. So by limbs we are locomoting. So in case of amoeba, the locomotive organ is pseudopodia. So it's like a projection. At the end of this you can say amoeba, which appears and disappears while the amoeba is moving. So pseudo means false. Pseudo means false. And podia means leg. So it is like a false kind of leg. It is not particular leg, but it is just a kind of projection at the surface of amoeba due to which it moves. So amoeba is having pseudopodia, then paramecium is having flagella. So paramecium is having flagella. This is known as, okay, this is paramecium. For example, it is also single cell. Okay, and paramecium is like a sleeper. Okay, and this kind of flagellum, and it is the locomotive organs of amoeba is known as pseudopodia. There is a nucleus and amoeba. So this was about the amoeba shape. Amoeba is having no shape. It is irregular. Okay, now let's talk about in case of human being. In case of human being, such kind of irregular shape and size you can see like in WBC, white blood cells. White blood cells is also known as leukocytes. White blood cells. They are also called soldiers of body. Soldiers of body because they fight against the germs, or we can say antigen bacteria. So white blood cells are known as soldiers of body because they are also irregular. And whenever there is a, we can say, antigen or bacteria, foreign body, what they do? They surround it and then they eat it. So that's called, they are soldiers. They destroy, they fight against the germs and bacteria. So they are white blood cells, also known as white blood corpuscles, and they are also known as leukocytes. They also have an irregular shape. Irregular shape. But let me tell you about what about the common cell. Like normally cells are round or spherical, or we can say elongated. So we have millions and trillions of cells. So you can imagine if we are having millions and trillions of cells, there would be so many different kind of shape and size. As I told you in the last lecture, the shape of the cells depend on its function. So usually or generally the cells are round, spherical or elongated. You can also find like spindle shaped cells in muscles fiber or muscle cell. Like you can see like spindle shaped structures. Okay, so such kind of spindle shape you can see in case of muscles. Okay, in case of nerve cells they are different. Like for example, you can see you will learn in 10th standard like how so this is like a nucleus, dendrites, axon. Okay, nerve cells are quite long. Usually cells are small and we can't see the naked eyes. Even nerve cells are not we can see with the naked eyes, but these are quite lengthy compared to other cells. The longest cells in our body are nerve cells. They are up to 3 feet also. Okay, they are up to 3 feet or more because they have to coordinate. The brain cells have to coordinate and contact with the body, so they have to transfer the message, they have to communicate, coordinate. That's why for fast communications and for transmission of message, nerve cells are longer and having such shape, and these endings are spread inside the, we can say, body at every ends to get the message, and message is passed in this axon terminals, and one nerve cells pass message to the other nerve cells. So you can see the shape of the nerve cells different, and shape of the muscle cells different. Shape of RBC, that is red blood cells, is like biconcave. Biconcave is like this way. Biconcave is like this way. It is having hollow structure above and hollow structure below and spherical. So it is like a biconcave structure. Okay, so to accumulate more oxygen. So such kind of shape of RBC, that is red blood cells, because to they absorb oxygen. So to accommodate more oxygen, they have biconcave shape. Biconcave shape. From it is having such structure. So this all shapes of the cells depend on its function. Now let's talk about the plant cells shape. Like plant cells, we will talk about the components of cells. What does the cells have? And cells have cell membrane. And first, so let me tell you. Just imagine a soap bubble. You might have seen soap bubble. The soap bubble is having liquid layer which moves on it. So the soap bubble which you made by yourself, the liquid which moves on the surface of the soap bubble, same way cell is like having a liquid layer, plasma layer flowing on it. That's called plasma membrane, which is a living. Okay, so we have cell membrane, then we have cell components, living and non-living components, which we will talk in the next lecture. But in plant cell, they have another cell wall. Like for example, we have cell, animal cell. This component is known as cell membrane, which is moving. As I told you, when you imagine a soap bubble, the liquid layer which moves on the surface in a soap bubble, same way plasma membrane is moving, which is also known as plasma membrane, because it's like a plasma. And we have cell component side, which we will talk in the next lecture. But in case of plant cell, they have two layers. One is of cell membrane and next is of cell wall. We don't have cell wall. Only plants have cell wall and bacteria have cell wall. And so this cell wall, even fungi is also having cell wall. So this cell membrane is present both. The outer layer, first the outermost layer is cell membrane. Outermost layer is cell membrane. But the second layer, which is not there in your animal cell, but it is present in the plant cell. Because plants are stationary, they are not able to move, they are only fixed position, and they have to withstand everything like wind, sunlight, even the animals are coming with. So plant cells want more protection, more rigidity. So this cell wall is non-living. Cell wall is non-living. It is like just a wall. When you say wall, what does it mean? It gives shape, it protects, it gives rigidity, it gives firmness, it gives strength. Okay, and on the other hand, cell membrane is living. So in next lecture we will talk about cell membrane, cell membrane is having in both, but plants cells are having cell wall, which they require specially because they are not able to move, so they require more protection. So this cell wall gives shape to the cells of plants, protection, rigidity, firmness. Okay, and strength. So this was about plant cells. I hope you understood. Now let's just talk about size of cells. Size of cells is around microns, that is millionth of meter, 0.00000 or much less than that. We are not able to see the cells with our naked eyes. We need highly we can say advanced microscope to see the cell. But normally single cells are not visible, but you can see some single cells with your naked eyes, as I told you in last lecture. That is hen's egg or any egg, ostrich egg or any egg of snake or ostrich or duck. Any egg which you see is actually single cell. Okay, as I told you in the last lecture, ostrich egg is the largest egg and Mycoplasma piccola is the smallest single cell. And now let's talk about, and shape of the cell does not depend on size of the animal. Like elephant is bigger, rat is small, so elephant would be having big cells and rat would be having small cells. Is not so. Like for example, elephants and rat, or we can say human beings, are having nerve cells. So both in case of all these three, they have long nerve cells, because the purpose of nerve cell is to transmit a message. So the shape of the cells depend on the function. It does not depend on the size of the animal. Okay, so shape of the cells depend on the function. So this was all about today. I hope you understood. And if you have any doubt, you can ask me.